Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. First off, just want to say thanks. The Face Like the Sun YouTube channel has officially reached 100,000 subscribers and I'm just blown away. I had no idea that there were so many people out there that were interested in some of the things that I talk about, and it's just me rambling most of the time, so I really appreciate you guys subscribing and being a part of the conversation. But a couple stories that are out there that caught my attention this week. First off, Scientific American in the neuroscience section published an article called "The U.S. Government Launches a $100 Million Apollo Project of the Brain." Now, the article talks about IARPA, which is the Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Activity, which is modeled after DARPA, obviously, has dedicated $100 million to this ambitious project, which is called the Machine Intelligence from Cortical Networks Program, or MICRONS, which aims to reverse engineer 1 cubic millimeter of the brain, study the way it makes computations, and use those findings to better inform algorithms in machine learning and artificial intelligence. So there you have it. They're trying to really tap into human intelligence to create artificial intelligence or sentience. They're continuing to advance in this area, this MICRONS project, which is a part of Obama's Brain Initiative campaign that we've talked about. There's a quote in here that was pretty interesting. It says, quote, "Thanks to significant increase in computing power and the availability of vast amounts of data on the internet, Facebook can identify faces, Siri can recognize voices, cars can self-navigate, and computers can beat humans at games like chess." Now, these things have already happened. They're talking as if, oh yeah, we're already doing this. We're already identifying you through Facebook. We're already doing voice recognition through your Siri. We've tapped into this infancy of a global brain to assist you. So it's already happening at that level. Which brings me to a scene from the movie Ex Machina. I finally watched it. I have a review written up and I'll publish it eventually. I know it's a little bit late, but one of the points in the film was a moment when the main characters, Nathan and Caleb, are talking about the artificial intelligence. And there's a scene where Nathan, one of the main characters, is explaining to Caleb how he cracked facial expressions for the AI. And Nathan states, quote, "Every cell phone just about has a microphone, a camera, and a means to transmit data. So I turned on every microphone and camera across the entire bleeping planet, and I redirected the data through Blue Book, and boom, limitless resource of vocal and facial interactions." To which Caleb responds, "You hacked the world's cell phones?" And then Nathan says, "Yeah, and all the manufacturers knew I was doing it too, but they couldn't accuse me without admitting they were doing it themselves." So a little admission there from the movie Ex Machina, and I'll break down the movie a little bit more in its own video coming up here in the next few days and weeks. But getting back to this article, I find it interesting that that's what's going on. That's what they're admitting. They're saying, hey, this MICRONS project is going straight to the source. We're not taking it from the global internet perspective. We're taking it from the brain itself. And eventually, those two things will merge. That concept of software and hardware becoming what, again, an Ex Machina reference, wetware. So the public announcement of a project like this is pretty telling about where we are. Now, the thing that's, of course, so ridiculous is that they call it Apollo Project of the Brain, which is basically an allusion to the Apollo missions to the moon, suggesting that the significance of discovering or understanding the brain is a journey embarking on the same levels as trying to go to the moon or trying to go to outer space. And if you go to Revelation 9:11, it says here, "And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name is Apollyon." Now, Apollyon means destroyer. And it's clear here that this entity is the king over the angel of the bottomless pit, okay? So a pretty dark entity here. Now, some of you might say, well, Apollyon and Apollo are different, and it might seem so on the surface, but actually, according to philologos.org, it says here that in one manuscript, instead of Apollyon, the text reads Apollo, the Greek god of death and pestilence, as well as of the sun, music, poetry, crops, and herds, and medicine. Apollyon is no doubt the correct reading, but the name Apollo, Greek Apollon, was often linked in ancient Greek writings with the verbal apollomai, or apollio, destroy. From this time of Grotius, Apollyon has often been taken here to be a play on the name Apollo. So again, there's much more you can dig into from there, but basically the reason why they're calling it the Apollo Project is, I think, because whether they realize it or not, in the spiritual sense, they are basically summoning the destroyer Apollyon, the king over the angel of the abyss. So there you have it. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but if you think about what's happening with the creation of artificial intelligence, we don't know what that's going to be. We don't know what it's going to look like. But if we start to understand that the world is not just physical, it's also spiritual, then you can start seeing how artificial intelligence can be hijacked or taken over by or possessed by something else. And we know the spirit of Antichrist is already out doing its thing. So ultimately, one of its feathers in the cap, so to speak, will be Abaddon, in the Greek, the destroyer, a king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit. This is part of the trumpet judgments, but it looks like that's where things are headed here. Now, the other commercial I wanted to talk about was this new Dos Equis commercial, which is actually the final one with Jonathan Goldsmith, who plays the most interesting man in the world. And in the commercial, interestingly enough, he's being celebrated by people around the world, and he gets in a rocket and he leaves and he goes to Mars. Now, okay, if you've been following my channel, I've talked a lot about propaganda surrounding space and ascension, going out there, you know, nesting in the heavens, as Obadiah 1 talks about, and the pride that is associated with that. It is blatantly obvious in your face that this is more of the same. And the fact that he's going to Mars makes me think, hey, this is just part of the propaganda to get people ready for some sort of announcement to either go to Mars or whatever. Eventually, I think they're hoping that they can unleash the extraterrestrial story, whether it's them here now or they were here in the past, or whatever cosmology it's going to change or shift in the public sense. It's all being set up for that kind of stuff. And we talked about this a couple months ago with David Bowie's videos, talking about going to space after his death. And so this is very symbolic. This is pretty obvious to me what they're doing. And, you know, it goes along the same lines of the apotheosis of George Washington, who is, you know, basically becoming gods, ascending. It's all there. And so it's just blatant. If people can't see that, then, you know, there's not much more I can do. I've been pointing these things out. There's tons of other people pointing it out. And it's not like you can stop what they're doing, but what's more important is that what's being pushed is not only headed towards the ultimate fulfillment of prophecy, biblical prophecy, but also it just goes to show the fallen nature of this world and this world system, and how much people in this world need Jesus Christ and his grace, because otherwise, man, no flesh would survive. Jesus was right in Matthew 24. Where we're headed with all this stuff, the agenda of man, so-called, is actually the agenda of Satan. You know, Satan's the one that has his control over humanity, and that's part of the deception. That's part of the age of deceit that we are in, and that Satan has fooled mankind into believing him and following him, when really salvation for mankind comes through Jesus Christ. So it's very clear the lines are being drawn, and I think as we chug along here, things are just going to get crazier and crazier. We're going to see weirder, stranger stories, not just out there, but experiences right in front of us in our own lives as well. So while I'm so pumped about the 100,000 subscribers and, you know, all you guys watching these videos, ultimately what I'm hoping these videos do is help you in your walk, you know, in your daily walk. As you go out, you get a pulse for what's happening in the world, and through that knowledge, not necessarily to share it with everybody just because, oh, I know so much about what's going on, that kind of thing. Not so much that, but an understanding of how fallen this world is. And you'll see people in your life, people you interact with on a daily basis, or people you live around, your neighbors, your family. You'll see a different level of conditioning, or part of the huge social experiment that we've all fallen victim to. And it's quite sad. And I think we will start to recognize at a different level the brokenness of people. And so as part of your mission, as part of your walk in life, you can choose to be salt and light and spread the gospel, shine a light into dark places, expose it with the light of Christ, and free souls from the bondage of sin in the name of Jesus. Hope you guys have an awesome day. God bless.